City of San Juan. This is a workshop session agenda, 6 p.m., Thursday, December the 10th. We do have a special guest from Precinct 2, County Commissioner Eddie Cantu's office. We are going to be going over a discussion by Hidalgo County Precinct 2 regarding a partnership between Hidalgo County Precinct 2 and the City of San Juan, Texas for roadway projects. Mr. Cecin?
And I have an example. As stated, thank you, sir. My name is Raul Cecino. I'm actually the general manager for the Drainage District, but we do also provide support services for all four precincts, engineering services. Commissioner Cantu apologizes he could not be here. He's actually out of town right now, and he wanted to make sure this presentation was presented to the City Council on opportunities to partner with some improvements throughout the city, improving some roads that are, I guess, somewhat heavily traveled in the area. The exhibit that I handed out identifies the roads in red that have been improved by the precinct to date. And it has a legend there, and then also the roads that need funding by San Juan and construction by the county, and then the projects to be completed by the county, and then funded by the county and constructed by a contractor. So, as you know, in the past, I came before this City Council with the former commissioner, and then when the new commissioner took over as well, we met with the city and partnered up with some improvements on Eldora Road and Sioux Road, which is currently ongoing. Eldora Road is about to be awarded. It was already let, so we're looking at the numbers to look at either awarding that or finishing it with our in-house forces, but that's upcoming at the beginning of the year. Those improvements west of Raul Longoria are set to start at the beginning of the year. And the commissioner wanted to present an option for a partnership to improve the roads that are highlighted or identified in this exhibit. This exhibit mainly speaks to some of the main roads that receive a lot of traffic, and the precinct has received feedback and wanted to make just a quick presentation to the City Council on the roads that have been identified and the cost for those roads. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Those roads that are identified there do have a cost estimate. And the cost estimate that has been generated is either for an overlay or for an actual partial reconstruction, something similar to what we have done in Sioux Road and what we're going to be doing in Eldora. It takes into account some roadside grading where it's available to make sure that we get the water off the road. All the work to be conducted by the precinct, basically with in-house forces. Any design work would also be provided with in-house forces if required. But basically, it would allow the investment of funds available to be able to partner together and get a lot more accomplished. So the commissioner, again, wanted to reach out to the city and continue the partnerships that currently we have, and an opportunity to see what the city of San Juan what plans the city of San Juan has to try to work together with the commissioner and the precinct in developing these improved roads here. So that's basically the presentation on that, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions or anything that you may have.
So the total cost would be 1.1 million, only for the ones highlighted in orange. Is that correct?
That's correct. All the ones that are shown there, they have already been improved or in red. The ones that are currently funded by the county under construction are in green, and then the orange color ones are the ones that are currently being identified um, as improvements. And as I mentioned, some of those are straight overlays. Some of those are partial reconstruction, similar to what we did. We were finishing up in Sioux. As you know, in Sioux Road, we extended beyond the city limits and going all the way to Cesar Chavez. And the commissioner is doing that work. Well, the contractor is, but the precinct's paying for that. In the roads that need that type of reconstruction, we'll definitely conduct that type of work. In the roads that are in reasonable shape to be able to just do an overlay, that's what we'll do. And we developed, the county developed a cost estimate that includes material and labor and equipment charges, and that's it. There's obviously no profit in it or anything like that because it's being done by in-house forces. So we're able to invest this money and get a lot more for the investment.
How much money was budgeted to do San Antonio on our own? On the bond money?
Close to $1 million, wasn't it?
50, 950,000? 950?
I mean, plus or minus,
Ballpark,
right?
It was like close to $1 million,
Right.
just San Antonio Road. I have one question.
Yes, sir.
As far as the overlay,
Yes,
are we
sir.
looking about 1.5 inches or is it 2-inch overlay?
Traditionally, what we have done has been a minimum of 1.5 inches, but we can evaluate that, and depending on the condition, we can consider that additional 1/2 inch. But traditionally, with 1.5 inches, if the road base is good and the surface drainage is good, then that should be more than adequate for it. So we can look at the logistics of that and the details of that. It also depends on the condition of the road, and we can definitely take a closer look at that.
I think when you're doing the whole road, like Eldora and all those, you went 2 inches, right?
Eldora, no,
Sioux.
we went 1.5. 1.5 with Sioux and Eldora. We did, but there we basically took out the road bed, limed it, crowned it, and then came in with a 1.5 on top. Yes, and that's the same thing that we're going to do in Eldora right now. We're going to take out the road bed, lime it, recrown it, and then come in with the 1.5. It's similar to, I think, some of the projects that you have been doing here in San Juan. Is my understanding. That's a similar approach that you've taken to address some of your streets.
Now, did you get, Mr. Arjona, did you get any other estimates as far as on other companies out there who do?
We reach out to different companies, Mr. Garza, and unfortunately, we're not able to get any proposals.
What was the reason for?
No, I mean, we tried, Ms. Gonzalez and I, we tried calling the companies, Texas, what is it, the Foremost, a couple of other companies to come out. We only got a response from one of them. They just couldn't make it. The other ones, we couldn't get an answer from them.
We have the specifications already?
No, we don't have any specs.
So
we're
we're
just
basing
gonna
it on what?
it was gonna be more like an estimation as to how much it'll cost from a certain area to a certain area. But yeah, there's no specs at this point. We wanted to get a ballpark figures to how much it'll cost us doing it ourselves.
Prior to the bidding process?
Well, I mean, the law says if it's going to be anything over 50,000, we need to have an engineer to create that information so that we can give it out to do that. Also, I mean, if you're looking at I mean, we have to go out for request proposals. We can't do bids on well, that's for engineers, but I mean, for the road, even if it's over 50,000, I think the city's at 25, we would have to go out for bids.
Yeah, this is merely just an evaluation, a surface evaluation of itself, and then generating a cost estimate. This is just a tool to use in order to be able to perform the services. You're correct. You would have to have some type of plan prepared like we did for Sioux Road and Eldora. We did those in-house. And then from there, request open bids to be able to get bids to be able to do the project. The city could get estimates from people out in the industry that conduct this type of work, but simply it's just a guide of it's just to see what a cost would be, but it's not something that, in my opinion, from the dealings that we've had at the county and the public entities to be able to enter into any type of agreement. It's just more of a guidance thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we have consulted in the past projects with contractors and stuff to get an idea of the cost out there and so forth. But a lot of these numbers that you see here are based on actual costs that the county has currently right now on county bid. The county has asphalt and tack coat on county bid, and we have a set price for the year, and that's what these numbers reflect, that cost. Good afternoon. Mayor, I was just going over, the commissioner apologizes he could not be here, he's out of town, and he asked me to come and just kind of make a quick presentation. And since I had originally worked with the city back when Commissioner Palacios was here, and then when Commissioner Cantu came in, we talked about San Antonio, talked about other work that we're doing for you right now on Eldora and Sioux, and he asked if I could just come and make just a brief presentation on some partnership opportunities that the commissioner, the precinct has for certain roads in the city. So, and I was just explaining that the cost that was generated is based on in-house work, performing the in-house work based on our county bids that we have.
Providing the labor and materials?
Everything, yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Labor, materials, and then any engineering that may be required of that the commissioner is committed to providing.
And the proposed streets, in addition to what's happening right now, just refresh me as to what they are.
Yes, ma'am. The legend there shows the projects that have been completed by the precinct, all in red. It shows the orange would be the ones that were needing funding or participation. The yellow is the one in the southern section the precinct will be doing, and then the green are the ones that are being funded and being constructed by the contractor. So Sioux Road is pretty much almost completed. The commissioner extended Sioux Road from east of the school all the way to Cesar Chavez. That's almost done. We're just in the final stages of the testing of the subgrade, and then we did some roadside grading improvements. So once the subgrade passes, we'll be ready to apply the asphalt on top and get that road fully open for traffic. Eldora, on the west side, we received bids. We're evaluating those bids. We met with the commissioner, and we should make a decision this month to move forward and start in January, God willing, get everything in place for that road section there. So that one's already in the works. You'll be starting
from the east side?
Raul Longoria all the way to I Road, that
Right.
whole section.
You start the I Road section first, you just close up the whole street? Or
Well,
what
it
are you
depends
doing?
on we'll have to get with the contractor and see which is the best way to do it. I know we'll have to look at traffic and see which are the most feasible ways to route traffic around, take into account the neighborhoods there in that area, and see what we can do. But we'll definitely be more than happy to invite anyone from the city when we have the pre-construction and discuss it. Yes, ma'am, we can do that and discuss. It's important to have that communication like we've had in Sioux Road. We've been communicating with your staff regarding some issues on services and things of that nature,
Right.
culverts and all that. So that's been ongoing, and we'll plan on continuing that type of communication on the Eldora project as well.
Yeah, because a lot of our homes there just spill out straight into Eldora. There's
Yes,
no
ma'am.
way to get around.
Yes, ma'am, and we tax the contractor requirements to make sure that they have full accessibility, even during working hours or after working hours, that they leave it in a manageable area so individuals can enter and exit their residence. So that's definitely something that we'll bring up to the contractor as a requirement on the plans, and we emphasize it strongly during the pre-construction and throughout the contract itself to make sure that they are provided full access to the residents. So, yes, ma'am.
As far as the bond monies, are we committed to that 9.5 only for San Antonio, or can we use it
Sorry?
for other roadways? We can use it as presented. Okay.
Mayor, did you get it?
Yes, well, I was asking for glasses. Yes,
Yes.
and I was asking for glasses. It's just, something about age.
Because I have a bigger one if you like.
That might work. And I got somebody offering me some. Thank you very much. Oh, definitely.
For what, 150,000?
Now, as far as the roads that are being proposed in this particular project, the timing for, if we were to say that those are the roads, I mean, I know we have residential roads that we have to address as well.
Yes, ma'am.
And so these are proposed roads that the commissioner is stating that they can participate in.
Yes, ma'am. The commissioner can work, any can work on any county or city road that leads to a county road. So these roads ultimately lead to a county road, so therefore county monies can be invested in those type of roads. The commissioner or the precincts county cannot conduct work inside subdivisions and things of
Or
that nature.
residential, which is
That's
what
correct.
we're definitely needing to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if some of these projects are approved by this commission to do in conjunction with the county, who oversees it? Who controls the hiring, the watching, getting the information as to how it's going?
Okay.
Who would do that? How do
Well,
we handle that?
since this is going to be all in-house, the numbers that you see here, Mayor, are proposed all turnkey in-house labor, material, design, everything. So it would be overseen by the precinct, myself as well with my staff, but we would definitely have communications with the city as far as when the project is going to initiate, during the project, and then after, and then also the order those projects would go. Definitely.
The county determines that, or we determine?
No, we would meet with the city
I would
and
hope so.
establish a protocol to follow. These are the streets that we'd like to
priority,
select
you
and
mean.
invest and set a priority list. And I'm sure the commissioner would be open for that. I don't think that's really an issue. We want to get the roads done, and he's willing to partner. So as far as the communication and as far as the priority, we would listen to the city and work together on that.
Once we establish, for instance, say we go with, I know in looking at all these roads that you've been proposing, I can tell you that San Antonio Road is probably the priority. And how long would it take as far as like shovel ready to go for you guys to start working?
On San Antonio, we've done some preliminary estimates in the past, so we have some preliminary information out there. We could generate something rather quickly, hopefully in 45, 60 days, try to get something ready, and then move on down the road with it, with all the improvements. So
45, 60 days?
yes, we do a quick turnaround for that, since a lot of it is overlays, minor reconstruction, something similar to the projects that we put together in Eldora and Sioux Road. That is correct, sir. Yes.
Mr. Cesar, one of the things I want to make sure is there's some that are strictly county, that as we make those determinations, that those are the ones that are worked on, like Eldora, we expect that one to be completed sooner than it has been. And I know that the county decided to finish Sioux Road all the way to Cesar.
Yes.
And so, but Sioux really, not Eldora, the section that needed to be done, is probably later on the calendar than what we expected.
Between Raul Longoria and I Road?
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. That one, as I mentioned, we've received bids already.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. As we discussed, if we were to say these are some that we want your
Yes, ma'am.
assistance on, and we put it on a schedule or a priority list.
Yes, ma'am.
That those do get completed as we have.
Yes, ma'am.
Agreed.
And the difference on these projects is these are going to be done in-house, so we don't have to for procurement of services or solicit bids or anything of that nature. Once we're ready to move and we have our in-house plans ready, we can move. We don't have to solicit 30 days and then go to contract and another 60 days to get the contracts awarded and all that. So that's why I feel comfortable making the statement that we could initiate the first part of the year and start some of these projects because we don't have that extra time that we have to do when we put it out to bid.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
100% in-house.
Yes, sir.
And my question then is, I know, Mr. Arjona, one thing I'd ask you to look into was that on these particular ones that the county's proposing, and some of them are some of the ones that we have discussed, what would it cost the city if the city were to engage with the money that we have?
Mayor.
As just an overlay, because I think we've spoken about that.
We couldn't get any pricing estimates on these particular streets. We tried, Ms. Gonzalez and I, and we couldn't get any pricing from the different companies.
Okay, but Ronnie's had an opportunity to look at those in the past anyway. And what would you estimate, Ronnie, based on what you were looking at?
Which street are you looking at?
I'm talking about if we were to able to compare, if we take a list of what's been handed to us, and we look at what we propose to do in ours.
Yeah, a lot of these streets that the county is doing are arterials. They're not residential.
Right.
So now, we have cost estimates, obviously, for Cesar Chavez, we have for San Antonio, but total reconstruction, curb and gutter, the whole thing. Now, what they're gonna do is something like what they did on
Two Road, El Dora.
yeah, with no curb and gutter, just,
Right.
patch it, redo it and do it. Now, obviously, they can do it a lot cheaper than we could because they're using their services, the engineering, the labor, and then
equipment,
the
everything.
bid on the materials.
Mayor, to answer your
they did it
question,
for a year.
I would guesstimate, and Mr. Cruz can chime in on this, but I would say 30–40% is probably the savings that you would see doing it this way.
I was gonna say you get 3 times more streets
Yeah, well, they're
on the.
a
which is
third,
30,
yeah, so.
Which is on your estimate of the bond, what you have for San Antonio.
Now, let me ask you this. I know that we already gave $1 million on Cesar Chavez.
Yes, ma'am.
And what this is looking at is additional 261,000. I mean, are we able to negotiate that as far as?
It's open, yes, ma'am.
I'd like to be able to negotiate that. If they can get some of those monies, because we've already invested what we've had to, it's gonna, and I think even when we turn the tables, even the commissioner the last time says, I don't want to put money into it, we're gonna tear it up.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's pretty much the same kind of way that we look at it, but we haven't entered into a contract yet.
Yes, ma'am.
So what I like to propose is on those particular roads, because we've already, that would be an investment of 1.2 million now, we were to approve that. Can we get some of that money back? Maybe a reduction by some way, or maybe a higher participation in that particular road?
Yes, ma'am.
So that we can save some monies and perhaps look at some residential streets that are in really dire need. And I think when we looked at San Antonio and the possibility of just overlaying, that there would be some monies left over. I have to agree that we're looking at definitely more road that we might have anticipated initially, but I'd like to be able to take to the table that on Cesar, we definitely need that assistance, but can we look at the amount that we're participating, just because we already have invested quite a bit, 1.2 million, if we were to approve this, and release some for some residential?
I will definitely convey that to the commissioner. The direction he gave me is, let's present it, and we're definitely flexible. These are streets that obviously, not just the San Juan residents, but the whole area uses, and definitely and Cesar Chavez it's a heavily traveled road because of the type of businesses that are in that area, north and south. So definitely south of the expressway, north of the expressway. So we definitely, I know the commissioner has the final say so, but I'm sure he would be receptive in looking at that detail, Mayor.
Very good.
Yes, ma'am.
I like that opportunity too.
I will convey that to him. Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Any other
Anything
questions
else?
I may answer?
Right. Thank you, Mr. Sessom, for coming over.
I appreciate it. We'll follow up, I guess, on that, Mayor, and
Yes.
then I guess the commissioner in the office will follow up with the city as far as what kind of partnership can be developed to improve these roads.
Sounds good.
Great. Thank you very much for your
Thank you,
time.
sir.
You have a good
Sure.
evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I be excused?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, you have a great librarian.
Yes, I do. Yes, we do. Yes, you got a great mom. Mr. Arjona? On any of these that, I think we're still open to discuss some of the roads. We talk in conjunction, and it says with precinct 2, council, can we go ahead and talk about some other residential roads? Since we're talking about roads that,
Technically, the workshop agenda says regarding partnership with the county on, for roadway projects.
Right.
We no longer have the county representative here.
but we did discuss that if the county were to work with us, we could look at other residential.
Try to ask them in the future.
And I think that that's what I want to discuss with
Yes.
this commission, that if we go back to the list, and I don't think we have it before us, that Mr. Cruz had prepared regarding streets and by priority, that there are definitely residential, well, not everybody has it, so I'll just kind of talk in general. If we can go back and revisit some of those, and I guess it's going to entail a meeting or workshop, so we can go back and revisit residential streets, because they're not included in here. And if there is a perhaps a discussion with a commissioner that he'll consider maybe releasing some of those monies, that we may be also ready to take some of those money for the residential. Go back and visit what are some possibilities based on the way they've been graded by Mr. Cruz, and then propose those as, when we look at those, that if we were to save some monies, which would be the ones that come up after that, that we could invest in. Okay, and we'll have a discussion a little bit later on the CDBG. We have somebody coming to talk to us about that.
No, they gave me an email.
Okay, and we'll discuss that at the regular meeting. Okay, so maybe as we come back from the holidays in January, we can set up a workshop to, one, discuss the decision with the county, and then look at any possibilities of other areas residential that we might be able to address as well.
After you said next year, Mayor?
We're not gonna meet, one of the things that are being proposed is the meetings. It just kind of gets a little fast. So maybe as soon as we get back. That'd be good. Any other comments or questions before I close this workshop?
Is that meeting, I'm sorry, would it be like before the regular scheduled meeting, or like?
Or it would have to be in a non-regular. Yeah, and just a week that we don't have a regular commission meeting. Yeah, the week before would be good. If there's no other comments or questions or discussion, is there a motion to adjourn our work session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
This all in favor state aye. We said aye. It's now been adjourned at 8:29. I'm sorry, 6:29. It feels like 8:29.